is road trip. Woo! We are going to do one more. Yeah, we'll do one more. We'll do something a little bit more domestic. Dinner. Sunlight shone through the windows as you sat in your living room, your phone pressed to your ear. Cove was on the other end. It's been shaping up to be an ordinary day like any other until Cove had called unexpectedly. He sounded unusually nervous, greeting you. You listened silently as he kept talking, his words stilted. So, I was just, wondering, do you want to come over to my house for, dinner tonight? The question came out strangely, almost like he rehearsed it a few times beforehand. Oh, maybe there's something brewing after all. Your eyes widened a little. You hadn't expected this to be the reason behind the call. Yeah, I'll go. It was, huh? Oh. It seemed that Cove still had more to say, and you just interrupted him. Whoops. Well, cool. Um, he stumbled for a bit, trying to gather his thoughts again. My mom and dad, they really want you to be there if your parents don't have a problem with it. They asked me to ask you. You took a moment to think. Dinner at home will be quiet and uneventful today. If you really wanted, you could go to Cove's instead. Can you come over, I mean? I had to ask my mom to get back to you. Yeah, I've done that a lot back then. So I would have to say this. Okay, let me know when you can. Was it just you, or did he sound almost comforted by your response? You had to be imagining it. He spoke to you a little while longer to explain what time to come over and other details, then hang up. And that was that for now, anyway. You called Mom right afterwards. She picked up on the third ring. It wasn't a long conversation. She was surprised at you asking to go to Cove's house for dinner, but she rarely gave you permission for it. Cove got a quick call from you afterward, so he knew for sure that you would attend the dinner. Then you said your goodbyes and went on with the afternoon. Soon enough, the sun dipped out of the sky and evening came. It was time for you to head to Cove's house. They really are pushing it in the story that there's a relationship going on. Like everyone's expecting them to hook up. It's really not forced, but the expectation is really heavy in this game. Which is okay, it's a romance. It's a romance visual novel. It could have been a railroad situation, but I didn't expect everyone trying to push me and Cove together so forcefully. After letting Elizabeth know you were leaving, she didn't look away from the TV, just grunted. You made the small journey across the street. Knocked a couple of times at the heavy doors to their condo. As you waited for an answer, you find yourself contemplating being a guest while both of Cove's parents were there. Ah, it was exciting. You were apprehensive. The idea made you curious. You don't think it would be especially interesting. You couldn't say you were thrilled. The idea made you curious. You wonder why they decided to invite you out of the blue. Maybe you find out later tonight. Didn't get too much time with your thoughts though. The door opened soon enough. Ghost mind Kyra stood in the frame, smiling warmly at you. Hiya, Cypher. Welcome. Please come on in. Oh, this is a nice place. You know, honestly, I don't mind this kind of design. Having a overlook counter so you can see what's going on in the house is cool. Not sure about this half wall division, but everything else looks really cool. Yeah, this is not bad, really. She opened the door wider and made it and moved to make room. You step inside, allowing her to shut it behind you. Thanks so much for coming over. I know it was kind of last second. That's alright. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course.
Of course, just make yourself at home. It's not my home, but I've been given permission to say that. Hey, Cypher, welcome to our humble abode. You jerk your head towards the sound of Mr. Holden's voice. He waved at you briefly from the kitchen, with his back turned and a large spoon in hand. Hope you're hungry, cause I'm whipping up something tasty tonight. True his word, you heard something sizzling on the stove. You closed your eyes and inhaled. It sounded spicy and savory. He was working on his cooking skills. Yes, he was working on his cooking skills. He's finally stepping up. I'm so happy. With Mr. Holden busy and Cove nowhere to be seen, it was just you and Kyra. She gave you a wise smile. Oh, I don't like that look. He sure is. I've been barred from cooking the entire time. I'm staying here. Can you believe that? She nudged you with an elbow. Mr. Holden scuffed good-naturedly, then spoke from over his shoulder. You're on vacation, Kyra. You need to accept that already. Interesting. She yelled back, amazement obvious on her face and her tone. People still cook when they're on vacation. Everyone's gotta eat. It's not like I'm some celebrity who could go out for every meal or hire a private chef. In this house, you're a VIP. They're getting back together, aren't they? The drama. Kyra smiled and shook her head quietly. Then she turned to face you once more. Sorry about that, Cypher. Here I was, trying to strike up a conversation with you, and Cliff just had to butt in. I don't butt in. She eyed him, chuckling in disbelief. He wasn't exactly disproving. She eyed him, chuckling in disbelief. He wasn't exactly disproving her point with that. Kyra leaned over to whisper to you. It's okay, he likes to be included, but since Clifford insists on cooking all by himself, we'll have to wait. The two of us can chat. Her next question continued to be said in a hushed tone, just to be safe. So, how are you doing? Good. Things are okay. To her credit, Kyra wasn't too fazed by your lackluster response. Let's see if we could turn that okay to great by tonight, huh? You don't have to. She opened her mouth to say something more, but some likely pounding footsteps caught your attention. You checked to see Cove emerge from the hall a few moments later. Must have heard all the commotion, left his room to see what was going on. He quickly took stock of the situation. You made it. Welcome to my home. Cove attempted a polite smile, but it was strained and disappeared quickly. Though the two of you weren't close, you could tell he felt uncomfortable by the entire situation. Know him long enough to realize that. Hi. You left it at that. You didn't think he would appreciate you asking him about it, especially not in front of his parents. It was when you glanced away from Cove that he spotted his parents watching the two of you interact. They're trying to hook us up. That's what's going on. Cove noticed their stares too, meeting them with narrowed eyes. Are we having dinner now? Not yet, bud. I'm still cooking. Alright, I'm gonna go back to my room. Before he could make his escape, Kyra spoke up. It was not his idea. See, I agreed to it because I thought it was his idea. I wasn't. That's sad. The parents are trying to hook us up. That's what's going on. Cypher, why did you go with Cove? I'm sure you would rather spend time with him. Cove's lips thin, clearly annoyed at his mom inviting you to his room. You assume he would protest it, but come on. The words were quiet, though they were definitely directed at you. You suppose that he'd rather hang out with just you than spend time with his parents right now. Go on, Cypher. You don't have to stand here doing nothing. Wow, it looked like you didn't have much of a choice, so you nodded in affirmative. Cove turned fully and made his way down the hall. Have fun, you two. We'll call you when food's ready to go. With that, you followed after Cove. The two of you made your way down the hall. Oh, so this is off-scene stuff. Um, I had visited my friends' houses and rooms plenty of times before, so I'm going to say this. Yeah, I visited Cove's room before, but only rarely. Cove got the door first, opening it and stepping inside. You joined him. This is a sweet setup. He's got a little aquarium. And he's got all the fishes. He's got that. Oh, it looks great. Oh, he's got the map. Oh, everything looks awesome. There was a mat on the floor in front of the door. As you step off the threshold into his room, you felt the crunch of sand beneath your feet. The sensation was nothing new to you, of course. Cove constantly came back to his room covered in sand and not bothering to clean himself off at the front door. Got it all over his personal space. Nice. That's just how he was. A little bit of a mess. You haven't heard Mr. Holden ever scold him for it. Not like your mom's, who would have if you'd done it. You can sit wherever you like. Cove himself took a seat at the edge of his large bed, looking like the picture of comfort, and left you to decide. I'll sit down. There was a desk chair in the room for a reason, after all. You walked over and rolled out, taking a seat in it. It was stiff against your butt and creaked every time you shifted. He definitely used his bed space more often than this. And, well, too late to complain now, you just had to deal with it. With the silence growing, your gaze began to drift. You stare at the bright fish swimming in the tank. There were a bunch of them, floating to and fro in the open space. They stood out starkly against the green aquarium plants. How long have you had those fish? My dad bought them for me not very long after I moved here. I guess it's been years now. Wow, that's a long time. You peer carefully into the tank. The fish looked to be doing well. You must be taking good care of them. Most of them were small, but there was one especially big one. What are their names? Oh, I don't name them. Well, not really. He lifted an eyebrow at that. He continued the explanation sheepishly. Mostly I just call them things based on what they look like Squirt for the small one, Tangerine for the really orange one, that sort of thing. I have a lot of fishes. I had a lot of fish, and I'm not that good coming up with names. You find that relatable. I don't find it surprising, because I would know him right now. He's like that. You find that relatable. You didn't have any pets. That's horrible. I always had pets when I was kids. Oh well. I guess everyone else could be different. But I totally had pets. Okay. You didn't have any pets, but you always had trouble naming your stuffed animals or whatever else. It's always such a hard choice. Oh, a couple of them have other types of names. He pointed to the small orangish red fish. It's minding its own business away from the others. My dad named her Dreamcatcher, and that one's over there is Mark. Like Markiplier? Mom came up with that one. Cove smiled to himself, his eyes reflecting the glow from the tank. You let other people name your fish? Yeah, it's nice. Can I name a fish? You almost expected him to turn you down. Maybe he only let those close to him like his parents named them. He shrugged instead and cared. Sure. There's a few who don't have names right now, the newer ones. You can pick which one you want to name. Pointing each of the recent acquisitions out to you. First was the smallest fish in the tank. It was completely orange and zipped all over the place, raining laps around others. The second was slightly bigger and red. Its tail was dotted with black spots, which almost resembled freckles. That reminds me of the better fishes that my mom usually had. The last fish was the biggest one. Its multicolored scales rippled under the bright light of the tank as it slowly made its way across the vast expanse. Wow, that one's beautiful. Um, I went with the biggest fish. Cove only nodded at your answer, waiting on you to decide on a suitable name. You watched the fish you chose closely. As you did, a name eventually came to you. Oh, Frank? Sunbeam? Gil? Zypher? Cove? It's very unique. Um, Bubble? How about Pearl? All right. Oh, I'm sorry, it's Cove. All right, it's Pearl. With that, his attention moved from you to the tank. He peered fondly at it and its inhabitants. He smiled proudly at Pearl as it swam through the tendrils of the plants, disappearing then reappearing soon after. You know, I'm not allowed to have pets in my house, not even fish. Corner to Cove's lips turned down at that. That doesn't sound fair. Not like fish would make a mess of your house or anything. Just gotta take care of their tank and feed them and they'll be okay. Right? My moms can be strict with the weirdest things sometimes. They trust Elizabeth and me to go around the neighborhood alone, but they don't let us have a pet. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe when you're even older, they let you? I don't know. They seem pretty against it. Your current conversation brought to mind a memory from years ago. It started coming out with no warning, earning you a brief confused look from Cove. One time, Lizzie or Elizabeth came back from playing at the beach and hid in her room. She came down for food, but then she ran back upstairs thereafter. It was hard to understand. My mom's left her alone at first. But that night, Mom went into her room to say goodnight and she screamed. Mom and I went over to see what was wrong. Lizzie found a big fat lizard, and it was in her arms. Cove's eyebrows rose at that, and he leaned forward in interest. A lizard? Where'd that come from? Elizabeth says she saw it half buried in the sand and didn't know what it was. She picked it up to find out, then brought it home. She hid the lizard in her room for the whole day because she wanted to keep it. Mom and Mom were upset at her. They worried about putting it out during night, but she was going to have to let it go in the morning. Lizzie was really sad. She did release the lizard, but she wouldn't talk to anyone for days. When she did stop being unhappy, it was almost like it never happened. You shook your head, thinking back to that time. Elizabeth had always been stubborn. But when she was younger, she forgot grudges quickly. Now it wasn't so easy. Cove had been quiet for most of the story. Apart from the reveal of the lizard, he had a thoughtful look on his face. Can't even imagine what it would be like to have a sibling. He gave a serious thought at his statement before he told him. There are up and downs. See, I'm able to try to connect with my mom because she's a single child or the only child, and I always had siblings. But she always mentions, you know, how difficult it was to try to handle all of us, and eventually she learned that she has to treat all of us equally, do things equally for all of us, and that was really cool. She didn't play favorites for the most part when I was growing up. Now it's pretty obvious. It's fun to have her there when she wants me to be there, but now Elizabeth barely feels like hanging out with me. Cove pursed his lips at the words, considering them quietly for a while. That's interesting. I think our family is cool. You didn't have much else to say, but while on the topic of your family, you consider your relationship with your moms too. They're absolutely the best. You get along with your moms. Uh, Now these particular moms are awesome, but they also tend to be helicopter moms. I think it's that. This game is uh, quite different from my parents. You had disagreements with them, but at the end of the day, you loved them and they loved you. And that's what really mattered. Well, say what you want about them, but at least your moms never tried to pay someone to be your friend. The thought prompted you to look over a Cove. You probably still didn't know what happened. You doubted that Mr. Holden mentioned it, and you never had. You wonder if you should tell him. It was a long time ago, but you were keeping a secret from Cove. Okay, all of them are about keeping secrets. This one is just telling him. Um, I don't want to tell him. Yeah, it's just a bad time. You bring it up some other day when the moment was right. Oh, I didn't notice that little tiny plant there. That's cool. Time seemed to pass at a crawl. The two of you spent most of it without speaking a word. Bo flipped through the pages of a book he wasn't actually reading while you tried to entertain yourself by looking around his room. Eventually, you heard a muffled holler from the different part of the house. You and Cove raised your heads in unison. He must have burned himself. Oh, no, 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 wait, it's probably dinner. It's time for dinner. I thought that was an emergency. Cove watched the firmly shut door he had locked behind for most of the night, but he didn't make a move to get up from the bed. Didn't see his face, so you didn't know what expression he was wearing. I'm glad you came. You raised your eyebrows, taken aback. You should probably say something, but you didn't know what. Cove said nothing else and remained sat where he was. Now would be a good time to, as Andy, to ask him why his parents so suddenly wanted you to come over. Is there a reason they wanted me to come over tonight? Cove didn't say anything at first. You thought he wouldn't answer at all, only for him to speak up. It's been awkward here. Sometimes it is when just the three of us were together. That's probably why. He waited for more, but this time he didn't talk further. There was another shout from outside, too loud to actually know the words, but you could imagine what they were. Let's go. I bet it would be awkward. I mean, they were divorced, they were exes. They seemed to handle each other well compared to the other exes I would know. but we'll see. Poe finally got up, lumbering her way with a shoulder sagged. You followed after him. Together, the two of you made your way back to the living room. Oh wow, okay. As you expected, Cove's parents were politely waiting for you at the kitchen table, besides the windows overlooking the back of the house. They'd had them prepared and set. Mr. Holden beamed as you and Cove take your places. If everyone's hungry, I've cooked up a feast. I know, I am. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Cove's mumbled response wasn't nearly as upbeat as theirs. His parents didn't notice, or they pretended not to. Mr. Holden still looked at you, grinning. Let's all just take a moment to thank our special guest for being with us here tonight. So glad you were able to make it cipher non-short notice, too. You have to thank them. You thank Cove's parents back for inviting you. Thanks for inviting me. Well, if that's it, everyone dig in. You can help yourselves to the food. Upon his encouragement, you look over the meal spread out in front of you. There was a large garden salad in the center, surrounded by a variety of Mexican dishes. There are a lot of sides and optional sauces to add. You know, this is actually kind of cool. I like these. You love Mexican food, and there are so many dishes to choose from, you're practically drooling. Utensils of plates scraped and clinked together as the group began filling their plates. Viv, can you pass the salsa verde? Of course. Thank you. Let me just say, you really outdid yourself tonight. I'm so jealous. Jealous of what? Your cooking's nothing to sneeze at, Kyra. Puff's parents made small talk, filling the silence with what seemed to be barely any effort. You weren't sure what to say, nor do you want to interrupt them by blurting something out. But without warning, Cove's parents started pulling you into a small talk. Good boy. Cypher, do you want anything from my area of the table? Say the word and I'll hand it right over. Oh, I'm good, Mr. Holden, but thank you. You should try some of the guacamole, Cypher. It's been a while since I had cloves, but I remember it being amazing. You're too kind. They're getting along. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was wrong about them being at each other's throats. Maybe they are trying to get together. I don't know. They're like overly nice. Everything looks great, Dad, as always. Thanks, Sport. Glad you think so. Kev smiled. It was genuine, even if it was strained at the corners. Brief silences interspersed the small talk. You paused some food on your plate, waiting for your turn, as someone was serving themselves a dish that you had your eye on. Once the food had been divided and things settled down, Cove's parents started talking again. Now then, you sat up in your seat when you noticed them both looking at you. How has everything been over your house or your mom's well? You been keeping busy this summer? Or maybe you're just trying to take it easy during break. What are they planning to do? I felt this and this. I felt uncomfortable with the attention. You almost want to shrink under the table just to get away from the expectant stares, but you didn't, obviously. Oh, geez. More choices. You answer how things were at your house. You told them how your moms are doing. I'll go with this. This is not as personal. Mention things he'd done this summer. Oh, God. Uh, is this like the whole meeting your parents when you're dating kind of scenario? Is this what I'm dealing with right now? I'm not sure where to start. There's so much that's happened. You should know what I've been up to since so much has included your family. I think I'll go with this? Mr. Holden's brows raised when you answered with that. You are sure keeping yourself busy. I could learn a thing or two from you. You told them how your moms were doing. You're the same as always. Work is a little stressful, but they said it's normal grown-up stuff and nothing to worry about. I know too well what that's like, unfortunately. Um, and that's all I'm gonna say. I'm really surprised about these options. Really. Can anyone say info overboard? Cypher can't keep up with everything you're throwing out. Mr. Holden winced at the gentle reprimand, as if just realizing how rapid fire his questions have been. Oops, sorry about that, Cypher. Guess it's a lot to take in at once, huh? Didn't you know, Cliff? Cypher is really into media? Oh, what? Oh, that's right. She had grilled me with stuff, too. All of my interest. Maybe I should not have said anything. Mr. Cypher's face lit up and he'd stop eating so he could lean forward, his arms braced against the table.
Nice work.
Oh, that's right. Very cool. Oh, jeez. I would have said this back then. I didn't realize how much my interests had changed over time. But whenever I'm into a project, I really go into it full force. You are at such a young age? That's really impressive. If you keep putting in the time, I'm sure you could do something great. Thanks. Those parents were definitely the encouraging type, but you could already tell that much about them. There was a long conversation as everyone focused their attention on their respective plates. You noted, not for the first time, that Cove's parents were the ones guiding the conversation. You wonder if you should break the silence this time. Ugh. I'm torn. I normally bring up conversations with my folks. No, I've done this sometimes. I've done this before. You hesitated before pushing through your discomfort and speaking unprompted. I also like other things. Would you like to tell us more? Yeah, absolutely. They looked genuinely eager for you to keep talking, so you did. The rest of the conversation continued just like that, with light conversation as you ate your meals. Eventually, all the dishes on the kitchen table were pretty much gone. Kyra set down her fork and rested her arms at her sides, letting loose a satisfied sigh. Her plate was completely empty. That was delish. Thank you for your culinary creations, Cliff. Mr. Holden was like a flower soaking up the rays of the sun. He beamed, flattered by the praise. I suspect they're getting back together. You ate until you were satisfied. It had taken you some time to finish it all, but eventually you cleared your plate. Cove successfully kept his presence to a minimum for the full meal. He was slumped over, even now toying with his silverware. His parents practically only talked to you. Most attempts to entice him to join the conversation failed. It wasn't typical for him to say so little. He at least tried to participate. You didn't get much time to contemplate Cove's situation because your attention was taken by Mr. Holden quickly clearing his voice. Not to sound like a broken record, but thanks for coming, Cypher. I'm glad we finally get the chance to have you over for a real dinner. What? Did I hear that right? This is the first time Cypher has ever had dinner here? Why in the world haven't you invited her sooner? Cove was always the one going over to Cypher's house until now. I mean, how was I supposed to reject the generous offers to the Flair family to host my kid? Kyra shook her head, but the amused smile she was sporting told you that she wasn't actually mad. This guy, honestly. But that dinner finally came to an end. Mr. Holden stood up from the table and began collecting empty plates. Cove was asked to help out, but she did with a little fuss. Kyra tried to lend a hand as well. However, Mr. Holden didn't let her. It seemed she was barred from cleaning as well as cooking. You weren't allowed to chip in either since you were there as the declared guest of honor. Although the meal was over, the night wasn't. It looked like you weren't going home just yet, after all. You were asked to wait on the couch. While Cove and his dad were cleaning up the mess, Kyra disappeared down the hall after shooting you a wink. It was a bit strange, sitting by yourself while everyone else had something to do. Luckily, you weren't alone too long. After a couple of minutes, Cove's mom returned with a deck of cards in hand. She strode into the room confidently while shuffling. So, who's up for a few rounds? Cove and his dad looked over their shoulders at the question. They were mutually intrigued by the cards in her hands. This is getting longer than I thought. Sorry for the long episode, folks. She beamed at their expressions and stepped further into the living room, ignoring the couches. She sat cross-legged on the floor by the coffee table. She turned to you and gestured the space beside her, smiling abundantly. You accepted and followed her lead. The living room carpet was soft, though the hardwood floor beneath would definitely still be felt. Kyra did an overhand shuffle while she waited for the others to finish their task. The smile has yet to left her lips. Right. This is gonna be good. I was a card shark back then. You enjoyed card games, and it would be fun to play with Cove and his parents. And it didn't take much longer for Cove and his dad to wrap things enough to call it good. Cove's dad appeared first, followed closely behind. So tired. Okay. It didn't take much longer for Cove and his dad to wrap things enough to call it good. Cove's dad appeared first, followed closely by Cove. Mr. Holden rubbed his hands together in anticipation. All right, I'm ready. As he took a seat across from you on the floor, you noticed that Cove hadn't joined him. He went straight down the hall instead, without even a word, staring on confused as they disappeared through his bedroom door. Cove's parents didn't look concerned at the stunt. Harry nonchalantly split the deck of cards into two and rifled the halves together while offering an explanation of sorts. Cove doesn't keep his wallet with him when at home. He puts it away. What? Cove quickly returned to the living room, a black wallet in his hand. It took a place at the foot of the table with the rest of you. You blinked as Cove unzipped his wallet. Do you bet real money on card games with your family? While you sat there, your hands idle in your lap, the three shot looks at one another and size each other up. Yeah, that's right. $5 per round per person. Winner takes all. Go big or go home. Oh, are you planning on kicking Cypher to the curb? Do you intend on donating to the Gasponders pot, Mr. High Roller? Mr. Holden narrowed his eyes and leaned back against the side of the couch, completely at ease. If Cypher wants to play, I'll let her way in. Don't you worry about that. Wow! They gambled! When I play cards with my family, I only deal with pennies. That's all we had. We never played with real money. Wow. He rested an arm across the top of a knee that he propped up. Cove's dad was acting slick in a way you'd never seen him before. You appreciate his offer. You felt awkward about the situation. I felt awkward about this whole thing. There's nothing wrong about playing card games and sometimes playing with money, but people get really caught up about trying to win the money instead of trying to, play a game for sake of having fun. So this is really taking a turn for me. If you'd known about this beforehand, you would have grabbed some money you had stashed away or done something to prepare for this. Well, you got your ticket, interested in throwing in? You glance around. This seems like serious business. In response to your consternation, Iris softened her competitive smile. Don't worry too much. We'll probably do some rounds of Go Fish tonight. No biggie. What do you think? Oh, I'll join in. You set your jaw and nodded at her. Mr. Holden gave you big thumbs up while Cove nodded firmly back. When I played poker, I was pretty good at it. You usually won when you played with your own family to the point Elizabeth refused to play that game with you anymore. Fantastic. We'll play for however long everyone wants to keep going, or until people start running out of cash, but are still refusing to quit while they're behind. Speaking for yourself, I see. The laugh Kyra nudged you using an elbow, then motioned towards the other two with her chin. Don't be fooled by their soft faces. These boys are sharks. In reaction to her words, Mr. Holden smirked, and Cove's eyebrows became more angled. Kyra's phrasing made you think back to when you were young, specifically of Mr. Holden's favorite shark pants that he used to wear all the time. Perhaps they had been a fit for him in ways you didn't know of. You could feel tension in the air. Cove and his parents glued their eyes to one another, then all placed $5 bills in empty space in front of them. Yeah, the energy with this is so different. Mr. Holden dropped an extra one for you, giving you a grin after he did. Once this was done, Kyra began dealing out cards to everybody. It was time to begin. The first round came and went quickly, with the group getting into the groove of things. You won right away, which meant you had money to keep playing the second round. You're a natural. Nicely done. You better keep those wits about you for the next round, though. As the night went on, so did the games. Oh, Cove is smiling. Mr. Holden would jokingly shake his fist when someone other than him got a pair. Kyra acted as a news anchor, reporting on every move everyone made by speaking into her curled fist. Aw, that's actually cute. Okay, it's not as intense as I thought it was. Cove was still of a few words, but now it was because he was focused on the game instead of being overcome with awkwardness. Most of the time, you even spotted a smile on his lips. You won quite a few games to your delight. You had a hefty money pile on your side of the table. It always happens. It always happens, even in real life. You must regret paying Cypher's way now, huh? I just might be. At this rate, she's going to bleed me dry. You consider apologizing. Mr. Holden didn't appear exactly upset, though, so you bit back the words. It became clear that where the money went in the moment didn't really matter. They ended up giving back to one another in other ways, and not just through more rounds of cards. You sat back looking over the scene, a tiny smile grew on your face. Cove's family was pretty cool, you thought. You were glad you got this chance to come over to spend time with the three of them. Alright, that was a super long episode. We're going to end that here, and we're going to hit Growing and Wave next time. If you like this, please hit the like down below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.